Hello, Internet. It is I, the Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Recaps. It's been quite a while since I've last made one of these videos, about 3 months to be exact. And since the last recap video, things have definitely improved box office wise, which really isn't saying much considering the current state of moviegoing. And when I made that last recap video, that December January recap, I'm gonna be blunt. Things were pretty damn awful movie wise, mainly because one, there was no exciting product, and two, the release schedule was completely unstable. Movies were flying all over the place. They were going backwards, they were going forwards, they were going to streaming. It was a nightmare. I had to make like 10 canceled episodes in March alone. In 1 month. It was it was madness. But unlike the last recap, we actually have successes. We have success stories. I know. Crazy. It's been a while since we talked about those. So, yeah, let's do this. Let's begin with February, which compared to January really wasn't all that much better, except for like one movie, and we'll get to that in a bit. But first, we have to talk about the first two that came out. Judas and the Black Messiah and Land came out Valentine's Day, President's Day weekend. Usually, in the past few years, it's been a very bustling holiday in terms of box office. I mean, 2015, you had 50 Shades of Grey and Kingsman duking it out and making a bunch of money. The next year, 2016, you had Deadpool destroying the box office. And then 2018, you had Black Panther destroying the box office again. And then 2020, we had the Sonic movie making a lot of money. So, Valentine's Day, President's Day weekend, very lucrative. This year, not so much. Not at all. Because nothing came out. Nothing exciting came out. Not one bit. But I guess we should talk about the bigger movie of the two, Judas and the Black Messiah. Now, I believe when I made my prediction video, I thought it would make 10 million, close to it, because I thought it would have a decently long lifespan. But considering the reviews, the awards attention, how relevant it is. No, that didn't quite come to fruition because it only opened at like $2 million and it made like 5 million total, which is pathetic. Let's be real, it's pathetic. And only 6 million worldwide on a budget of 26 million. Yikes! That's not good. Now, if this came out in normal times, it probably would have made 20, 30 million. I don't think this would have done all that well in the first place. I don't know, maybe because it just wasn't as I'm trying to think of the right words. When movies like this, it can kind of go two ways. Sometimes they can really resonate with audiences, like say The Help or 12 Years a Slave, 42, trying to think of others that I can think of off the top of my head. Your historical movies or movies that take place like in the past that dealt with race in one way or another. Like sometimes they can do really well, but sometimes they don't do well at all. I mean, look at 2016's Birth of a Nation. I don't think I need to tell you how that movie did and all the controversy surrounding that. If you want to know what happened to it, go research it. You'll find it quite interesting. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't have much else to say about it. I mean, it flopped. That's an undisputed fact. I mean, sure, it won like some awards at the Oscars, but at the same time, nobody watched the Oscars. The Oscars were a train wreck. They had only like 10 million viewers, the lowest ever. Like, really, who cares? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many awards you win. Nobody cared about this movie, which I know that's gonna make some of you sad, but that's the hard truth. You're just gonna have to accept it. Sorry. So yeah, that's the first movie, Judas and the Black Messiah. Then the movie that came out the same weekend, Land. No one cared. I didn't care. You didn't care. No one cared. I didn't have high expectations for this. I don't even remember what I predicted. Was it like 5 million? Like one? It was between 1 and 5 million, I think, and it only made like 2.5 million, which is weak even by pandemic standards. But honestly, like releasing a movie like this about someone going through like a lot of struggles, a lot of big struggles, like who would want to watch that over like Valentine's Day weekend? Usually Valentine's Day weekend, you watch like a fun movie or like an uplifting movie or hell even a horror movie. Not this, not something that could be depressing. Like who wants to willingly get depressed over Valentine's Day weekend? Not me. So, yeah, I'm not surprised it didn't do well. And that was Valentine's Day weekend. I know it was a sad occasion, and you know it's bad when Crude's a New Age, a movie that came out last November, actually was number one that weekend and the weekend after. Like that's crazy. That's that just tells you a lot about how bad things were. I know there's No Man Land. Like, all right, here's the thing: when No Man Land was released wide, I didn't know it released wide. They never said. I never got like any type of notification that it released wide, so I didn't cover it. But apparently, it did release wide, and it made $2 million. Apparently, like I don't. I mean, it won Oscars, but at the same time, again, no one saw the Oscars, so it's completely irrelevant. But it does give the director, what's her name? I hope I say her name right. Chloe Zhao. I don't know. The she has some clout now because she's about to direct the Eternals movie for Marvel, and we just saw footage of that today with the Marvel's whole Welcome Back to the Movies trailer that showcased some of Phase 4, at least some. Well, they revealed release dates and titles and logos and whatnot. So at least she has some clout. At least they could put that in the marketing campaign. So there's that. But yeah, I have nothing to say about No Man Land because I didn't cover it because I didn't even know it was going wide. So don't blame me. Blame Searchlight for doing that. And then the final movie of February, the one that actually made some money, Tom and Jerry. Now, with a movie like this, I usually want it to fail because it's the type of kids movie I hate. The type that treats kids like they're idiots and just really insults the intelligence. Actually, not just children, insults the intelligence of everyone. Like, and this movie is just like all those other really bad live action CGI hybrid movies. Your Alvin and the Chipmunks, your Smurfs, your Garfields, your Yogi Bears. It's exactly like that. And the sad thing is all those movies made money. And so I really shouldn't have been surprised that this one makes some money too. Granted, it wasn't as successful as those movies, but this movie was put in a worse position than all those other movies. So I can't really blame Tom and Jerry that much for that. But still, this was the first movie after Wonder Woman 1984 that actually made a significant amount of money because it opened to 14 million, which at the time was the second biggest of the pandemic. Number one at the time was Wonder Woman with 16.7 million. So I saw that number and I was like, whoa, okay. People, all these families are willing to see a new movie that's not called Crude's a New Age. I just wished it was something better, but I'll take it, I guess. And it's made 44 million and 109 million worldwide. Not great at all, but it could have been worse. Could have been far, far, far worse. I honestly wished it was worse, but there's nothing I can do. Yeah, Tom and Jerry, it succeeded. Is that too much of a word? You survived. That's a better word. You survived. Okay, I'll give you that. You survived, even when I didn't want you to. You made it. Congrats. Ugh. So that was February. I know 3 movies, not a lot, but well, there's No Man Land 2. That's technically 4, but give me a break. I didn't have much. Like the schedule was just depleted. Um, like late last year, like when all movies were just flying all over the place. Like January and February were just decimated. Things really don't start popping up again until March. March. The beginning of March, that's when New York City theaters reopened. And it was a good thing that they reopened because you had 3 movies coming out: Boogie, Chaos Walking, and the big one, Raya and the Last Dragon. So let's start with a Boogie. Yeah, I didn't expect much out of this at all. I think I predicted, I don't know, somewhere in the realm of 1 to 5 million, maybe higher. I don't remember. It only made like 4 million, like opened like 1.2 million, which I mean, this movie had like no real advertising. I didn't know anything about it. It just appeared. So yeah, I'm not surprised it didn't do all that great. And there's not much else for me to say about it, but then, well, it didn't do great. Now we get to talk about a more interesting movie, Chaos Walking. A movie that went through so much hell behind the scenes. Apparently, when this movie finished filming in 2017, right? Then they had to do a bunch of reshoots because apparently the first cut of the movie was quote unreleasable, which makes me think, good God, what did that first cut look like? Because when the movie did come out, I heard it was horrible. It was really bad. And I knew this was going to be a bad movie because one, all the delays, and two, when you hear the words extensive reshoots, that's a bad sign. That is a sign to stay away. This is going to be a bad movie, and lo and behold, it was a bad movie. And box office wise, it did not set the world on fire. I predicted it would open, I don't know, like 2 million and make like 5 million total or something like that. It did exceed that quite a bit. It opened to like 3.7 million and made 13 million. So it exceeded my low expectations. But at the same time, this movie cost $100 million, only made 19 million. That's a humongous L. That's a humongous loss. So no one benefits from this at all. So yeah, Chaos Walking, a complete disaster in every way possible. The first real, like, legitimate bomb, like a hard bomb of the year. And I know there will be more, but this was number one. And it's definitely going to be on everyone's either their worst of the year list or their biggest bombs list. No question. So yeah, that was Chaos Walking. Now the movie that everyone paid attention to mainly because of its interesting release strategy, and that movie is Raya and the Last Dragon. You see, Raya didn't release just in theaters. Nah, Disney wanted to do something a little different. You see, way back last year during the I guess the early stages, the early-ish stages of the pandemic, they had this movie called Mulan, a remake of a classic animated movie. Granted, that movie was already dealing with a bunch of controversy, but still, they had to push it back endlessly, and they looked at it and were just like, "What do we do with this thing?" And then someone over at Disney was like, "Hey, how about we give people the option to watch it on Disney Plus at home? They don't have to go anywhere, and all they have to do is pay $30." And then another person at Disney was like, "Genius! That's exactly what we're gonna do," and that's what happened. And Mulan, well, I'd rather not talk about it because that movie brings back a lot of bad memories and just pure awfulness. And so I guess Disney were like, how about we try that again? Except this time, let's release it not just on Disney Plus. They're calling it Disney Plus Premier Access. Not just that, but also theaters, and that's what they did with Raya. So you had two ways of watching this. You can either watch it at home and pay $30, which I'm never gonna do ever, or you can watch it in theaters. And yeah, judging by the box office, I don't think too many people picked that second option. Nobody picked the theater option because it did not do well at all. It only opened like 8.5 million, made 41 million total. Granted, that's one of the biggest box office results of the pandemic. I mean, that's just a fact, but you cannot dispute that it underperformed severely. Like Disney animated movies do not make $41 million domestically. They make that much in like the first 2 days, not after 2 months. Like that's horrible. Because I mean, think of all the new Renaissance Disney movies that have come out. Your Tangles, your Wreck-It Ralphs, your Frozens, your Big Hero Sixes, your Zootopias, your Moanas, all did fantastic. And this, in normal times, it probably would have joined. It would have been right up there. It would have joined the club. But the pandemic and Disney Plus said no. So, yeah. And the fact that it made less than Tom and Jerry, a movie that is way, way worse and of way lower quality than this, that's that's just a sad situation. So, yeah, Rhea, you may have done okay-ish when compared to the other pandemic movies, but by normal standards, you're a bomb. You're an undisputed bomb. I don't know how well this did on Disney Plus because Disney just doesn't want to say anything. I don't know if it did well. I don't know if it did terrible. We'll never know. We'll never know for sure. So, yeah, that was the first weekend of March. It was a quite the interesting weekend, having three movies open at once. But then after that, things really just died off. You had these two movies, March 12th. The Father. I'm pretty sure anyone who actually watched the Oscars, you all heard about what happened here. Anthony Hopkins, he shockingly won the Best Actor category over Chadwick Boseman. The late Chadwick Boseman, and a lot of people were pissed off. If and the fact that Anthony Hopkins, he didn't show up at all, not in person, not on video. He was asleep. He was asleep when he won the award, which I mean that should tell you everything about this year's Oscars right there. But Yeah, The Father. No one watched it. No one cared. It only made like opened like 400,000, made like 1.8 million. No one watched it. No one watched any Oscar movies because, well, there was nothing all that interesting. There was like no big movie like, 2019 where you have Joker, everyone paying attention to that, or even like Parasite or 4V Ferrari or Jojo Rabbit or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Or any of those movies are far more interesting than the 2020 Oscar season or 2021 Oscar season. It's just, yeah, that's just a bona fide fact. No one cared. And even less people cared about Long Weekend. It only opened like $245,000 and made $500,000, which is just horrific by pandemic standards, by normal standards, by any standards. It's horrible. And that's all I'm going to say about that, because what else do I have to say? And then the next weekend we had The Corridor, did quite a bit better than the last two movies, but still not great. Opened to 1.8 million, made 6 million. Uh, I don't know what else to say, but it was not the worst performing movie of this recap video. I think that's the best thing I can say about it. So congratulations, Corridor. You're not at the bottom of the ladder. So yay, I guess. Then right at the end of March, well, not quite the end, but close enough to the end, we have Nobody, the first interesting movie since Raya and the Last Dragon. And for all the action movies that have come out in the pandemic, like Unhinged, Honest Thief, Marksman. This one actually did way better than those. It did far better in terms of money. It opened with 6.8 million, made it's currently made 23 million domestic, 41 million total. I think prediction wise, I said, I don't know, somewhere, I think it may have been a 6 million or something like that. I don't remember exactly. I think it was it exceeded my expectations. That's all I'll say. It did better than I expected. So, congratulations, Nobody. You did okay. You did okay. And sometimes that's better than doing terrible. So, yeah. And then the very literally the last day of March, we have the big movie, the movie that made everyone, well, at least everyone in the box office world, it made their jaws drop. Godzilla versus Kong, baby. Okay, Godzilla versus Kong, the first big, big movie to come out since Wonder Woman 1984. I've already talked about Wonder Woman 1984 many times, especially in the last recap video. That movie was screwed from the beginning, had less theaters, didn't have NYC, didn't have LA. It was screwed from the get go. Godzilla vs. Kong was in a much, much, much better um, situation. It had NYC, it had LA, it had more theaters to work with. It had vaccinations were going around much quicker. So yeah, and I thought Godzilla vs. Kong would do all right. I predicted it would make between like 20, 30 million over like the 5-day weekend, but because it came out over a 5-day period. But boy, it exceeded that. It ended up making 32 million over the 3-day weekend. And if I can pull it up here, if I can pull it up, made 48.5 million over like the 5-day period because it opened on Wednesday. When I saw that Wednesday number, that 9.6 million for that one day, I was like, oh my God. This movie is people must truly care about this movie to be showing up because I haven't seen numbers like this in ages. And people did show up, and so far it has made $90 million domestic and 415 million worldwide. By far and away the biggest Hollywood movie of the pandemic. Like no question about it. This movie is a undisputed success in my book, and it destroyed Tenet's record for the biggest pandemic movie. So, and I knew this movie would do better than most because that first trailer got so many people hyped, had a very high view count. As the movie got closer and closer, the hype continued to build and build and build. And then it finally boiled over and led to big money. Money that I haven't seen since last February. Exactly last February with the Sonic movie. So, yeah, yeah, this is definitely a humongous positive for the movie industry, for the box office industry. Humongous positive, especially for Warner Brothers. I remember everyone like back when the HBO Max experiment went down, when that was first announced, everyone was like, "Oh my god, this is horrible. Goodbye movie theaters. You had a good run. Peace." Like a lot of people thought this experiment was like a horrible idea. But turns out it wasn't such a horrible idea because, well, one, it gives theaters movies, it gives them content. And two, judging by the box office, the whole HBO Max thing, it's not really killing the box office. At least not from what I've seen. And I mean that 90 million, like that's not too far off from the last Godzilla movie, King of Monsters, which came out in 2019. That only made like 110 million domestic. It was big disappointment. But Godzilla vs. Kong's performance is a lot more impressive considering it's in a much weaker marketplace. So it looks a lot better. So yeah, Godzilla vs. Kong, you were the undisputed winner of the pandemic. You were the new number one at this point in time because that's guaranteed. It's guaranteed to be surpassed. But by what movie? It'll probably be Cruella, Quiet Place 2, or Fast and Furious 9. Those are like the three that I think could theoretically top it. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with those movies. Yeah, Godzilla vs. Kong, big winner, big W for Warner Brothers. And then that same weekend, we had the Unholy, a rather interesting movie that come out on Easter, considering it's about, you know, uh, it's about demons and whatnot. And not exactly what you would want to release. It's kind of like how you have like almost like anti-Christmas movies come out, like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo or Django Unchained, Wolf of Wall Street, Uncut Gems, movies that don't fit Christmas at all but come out anyway. And all those movies did very well, but this didn't. I mean, compared to all the other horror movies we've seen in the pandemic, this is the undisputed number one. It opened at with 3 million. It's made 13 million, 21 million worldwide. Not terrible, not the absolute worst, but I mean, for horror movie standards, it's still very weak. So, yeah, all I can say is it could have been worse. When that's the best thing I can say about a movie, then yeah, that just tells you the whole story. All right. Next weekend there was Voyagers. Voyagers. Yeah, I didn't no one had high hopes for this. I didn't care, you didn't, no one cared. I didn't even feel like making a video on it, but I knew I had to, so I did it. And yeah, to my utter shock, it didn't do well. It opened with like 1.3 million. It's made like 3 million total. It's a bomb. It only made, this budget was like 29 million. yeah, it's a bomb. There's no question about it. If it's a big old flop. I mean, not as bad as say Chaos Walking, but still, it's a bomb. It's it, it's an undisputed bomb. So let's move on to April 23rd. We had two. Well, there was together. No one cares about that movie. We had two movies. Both were R rated and catered to hardcore fans. We're talking about Demon Slayer, the movie, and Mortal Kombat. So let's first go over Demon Slayer. Now, Demon Slayer, I don't know anything about Demon Slayer, so I have no knowledge on it. But from what I've heard, it's a very popular anime. And so when the this came out last year in Japan, I've heard all about how it did so great in Japan. It did amazing. Like it was the highest grossing movie in the history of Japan, which is crazy considering the pandemic was still happening. Like you look at its box office and you think the pandemic, like pandemic, what's that? Like it's almost like it never existed. It was nuts. So because of its success in Japan, when it was announced it would get like a US release, a wide release at that, I thought, not all of that success would translate over here, but at least some of it would. Because here in America, we love our anime. We we love it a little too much. So, but with anime movies, they have a very spotty track record. The only real ones that had any impact were like the Pokemon movies and like the Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Super Broly movie. Like those are the only ones that had a real impact. But this movie, whew, boy, it exceeded any and all expectations. I thought it would only make like 10 million domestic, like 10 million opening weekend, or at least 7 to 10. It made 22. 22. No, actually no, it made like 21 because I think that was a 4 day, but still 21 million opening weekend. That's nuts. Keep in mind we're still in the pandemic, okay? Like that's bigger than Wonder Woman. That's bigger than Tom and Jerry. That's bigger than Raya. It's bigger than all. Bigger than Tenet. That is crazy. That this niche anime movie can make more money than any big-ish movie that's come out in the past year or so. That's nuts. And granted, it had a huge decline this weekend. It fell off by about 70 something percent. But it was number one at the box office. So, yeah. Well, it was number two last weekend, but then it became number one this weekend, even with a large drop. It's made 34 million now. Easily one of the top grossing anime movies of all time. So, yeah, Demon Slayer, big hit. Big hit in the States. Nothing more I can say. It's an undisputed hit in my eyes because let's be real, the North American release, it was just gravy for the movie. It was just extra money because it already made 400 million outside the states. So America, all those American dollars were just extra money it could make, and it made it in, yeah, big hit, big hit, relatively speaking. And then the second movie, Mortal Kombat. Now, the genre for Mortal Kombat, the video game movie genre, it's a very infamous genre in the movie world. Not a whole lot of success. I mean, the only successful ones are the very first Mortal Kombat movie in 1995, the first Tomb Raider movie in 2001, some of the Resident Evil movies. Shoot, what else was after that? Trying to think. Uh Angry Birds movie. I guess there's that. Uh, Rampage, and then there was the Sonic movie and Detective Pikachu. Those are like the bigger ones. And Mortal Kombat. I mean, I didn't expect greatness from it. I thought it would open between like 10 million, like in the realm of 10 million, but it exceeded that by a lot. It opened to 23 million, and it was number one. And I was just like, oh my god, wow! Like with this and Demon Slayer, I thought, wow, movie going is back. Like it's back, and things are gonna get real exciting. And then the next week happened, and then it just fell off a cliff. It fell by 73%, if I'm looking at this right. Yeah, 73%. It took a big drop, humongous drop. And now it's at 34 million so far. I mean, like, I'm not really surprised by these big drops for like Mortal Kombat and Demon Slayer. I mean, when you look at the genres like video game, movie, and anime, it's not surprising. Both genres are notorious for movies burning out at a fast pace. Like we'll say Demon Slayer and anime movies. The Pokemon movies burned out. Dragon Ball Z, Super Broly, that burned out. And video game movies. Where do I begin? There was Warcraft fell like 70%. Doom fell 73%. So this is not a new occurrence. It's not a new thing. But yeah, it's very disheartening. Like from one weekend, everyone was like, "Yeah, this is awesome," and then the next weekend, nobody. Everything just went downhill so quick. But I mean, also the fact that Mortal Kombat and Demon Slayer were targeting very niche audiences, the type of audience that would show up those first 3 days and completely peace out after that. But Mortal Kombat and Godzilla versus Kong. Well, Godzilla versus Kong, even that had stronger legs than Mortal Kombat. But I actually watched Godzilla versus Kong and Mortal Kombat on HBO Max because I am taking advantage of this experiment. And both movies were pretty good. They weren't bad. They were pretty decent. I can see why fans rallied behind them. I can see why people liked them so much. So yeah, I'm not surprised that Mortal Kombat and Godzilla versus Kong did better than expected. They had big openings, but the thing is, Godzilla versus Kong had has had a relatively longer lifespan than Mortal Kombat. But at least Mortal Kombat, this new one, will at least outgross Mortal Kombat Annihilation and raw dollars. Granted, it won't in terms of inflation, but still, as long as it can make more than Annihilation, then I think we can call it a relative success. So, yeah, I guess that's it for that. Then we have Separation, a movie no one cared about. I didn't care about it. Opened to like 1.8 million. Everyone hated it. Who cares? Who cares? And that's it. That's it. That is it. That is all the movies that came out in February, March, and April. It's quite a lot. Way more than the past few recap videos. And it's almost fun in a way to see when movie going kind of took a turn. Like when things really started to go up when it comes to box office, because beginning of February it was dead. It was dead. Like it was it was very dead. At the end of February and early March, things were looking up, and then Godzilla versus Kong happened, and everyone went nuts, and then everyone went nuts again for Demon Slayer and Mortal Kombat. Like, it was very roller coaster. It was a real roller coaster ride these past few months when it comes to the box office, and things should get better. when May comes around, particularly late May, when we have Cruella and Quiet Place Part 2, that's going to be the weekend to look at. I think that's going to be the next real successful weekend we're going to get when it comes to box office. So I guess we can look forward to that. But yeah, but that's not till like late May. So we got to get through a couple tough weeks before we get to the good stuff. But yeah, that's it for this recap. Next recap will be May and May only. All right, May will be a solo recap. There are enough movies in May to justify a solo recap, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So yeah, it'll be my first solo recap since February of 2020. So I'm pretty excited to do it, but that won't come out till June. So look forward to that. But yeah, other than that, that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn on notifications, share the whole drill. Want to check out more videos like this? Got a playlist on the homepage. You want to check out any of my past recap videos I've made? Go right ahead. There's also box office predictions. I go over the box. I predict box office for movies. I will do my predictions on what are the Here Today and Wrath of Man on Friday. But if you want to check out any of my past prediction videos from like 2019, 2020, 2021, the weird thing, and I didn't even mention this, like when I made my Demon Slayer Mortal Kombat predictions, I thought those videos would just do all right. Like they would get like 50 views each. No, that didn't happen at all. Demon Slayer now is like over 250 views. Mortal Kombat has 150 views. Like they're the most viewed videos. Well, there's also Tom and Jerry too. But they're like Demon Slayer and Mortal Kombat done really well for box office prediction standards. Like so I think well grant there was a lot of interest in those movies. But yeah. Yeah, so that definitely helped that people actually cared. And it definitely showed their opening weekend box office. But anywho, if you want to check out any of my past prediction videos, go right ahead. So the canceled series, I go over all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't. I just did one on Morbius. There's a bunch I've done the past month or two, like a whole lot. And the funny thing is, I actually made like thumbnails and everything for like May because I was thinking, all right, things are going to be stable, things are going to be good, let's go. And then the May schedule just changed completely. Black Widow was gone, Free Guy was gone, Peter Rabbit 2 was gone, and I was like, fantastic, great. There goes all the movies. So that was fun. I had to like can't add like it was a whole big cluster. Whole big cluster. But if you want to check out any of my past canceled videos, all 59 of them now, you can go right ahead. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.